Sorry about the delay on these. I have a great excuse, but we'll just skip it and get to work. So today we are going to look at a few things. This is going to cover essentially our whole week's instruction. This week we've been working on layer styles that we can find within Photoshop. Now, pardon me. The primary emphasis that we were working on was something that's called an outer glow. Now, the images that we used were from Unsplash. Let me pull those up real fast. Sorry, and then you can follow along with these if you like. Oh, sorry, just real quick on this. There is an art show submission. It's just essentially for extra credit. There is an art show this weekend. If you want something featured, you'd have to get it to me by the end of the day. So submit it there if that's of interest to you. Okay, so the first thing I want to address is the difference between fill and opacity in your layer styles. Okay, and to do this, we're also going to get a little bit of our outer glow in conjunction here. Okay, so the difference between fill and opacity can essentially be summed up by saying that when we lower the opacity of something, for example here, right, we're lowering the entire image, essentially everything that we're seeing inside of a thumbnail there. So it's lowering that opacity, the whole thing, right? Fill, on the other hand, is if we lower our fill, what will happen is that we can lower the opacity, essentially, it looks like opacity, of the image. However, we get to keep behind all the elements and layer styles and profiles that we have back there. So what does this look like? Well, let's take a look. So I'm going to start with the blank layer here, and I'm going to use my my elliptical marquee tool, and I'm just going to make a nice perfect circle here. Remember, you can hold down Shift to make a perfect circle. You can hold down Spacebar to reposition something. So once I've got it where I want, I'm just going to go like this, leave it here. Now remember, I'm on a blank layer. This is not a layer copy. This is just a blank layer. And then what I'm going to do is a color fill. So we'll make this, let's say background color, because it's purple. Okay, it has really kind of nothing to do with the rest of this image. Okay, so once I've got my color fill made here, right, which now is a shape on this layer, that's my color fill. Okay, that's the layer that I'm going to edit. Okay, so next I'm going to do an outer glow. Okay, so I've got this light bulb here, and to get to my outer glow, I'm going to double click on the layer, and then I'm going to make my way down to where it says outer glow, and I'm going to check the box, but I'm also going to make sure that I click here on the layer, because if you just check the box, you'll still be on blending style. So I'll just click outer glow, and I don't have any of my features there. Then I can go here to my outer glow. Okay. So I want to make the color of my glow match this kind of orange color. So I'm going to click my color picker here, and then my eyedropper will come out here, and I will click this kind of orange, kind of maybe in between there. Okay, and I'll click OK. All right. So what an outer glow does is it takes the outer perimeter of your shape or your layer style, your layer, whatever's on your layer rather, and it gives it a glow. Now we can see what that glow, the effect is going to happen is right here. And so if I want to change it, I'm just going to kind of goof around with these. Now, this is it's tough to say because you'll never get a uniform application for these because every image is different. Its size and pixel count within the image itself is going to be different on every single image. So it's always kind of tough to say, do this, exactly this, and it'll be okay. But you don't necessarily need to do that. Oops, sorry, not color dodge screen. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to click OK here. And I'm going to sneeze here in a minute, so give me a second. Thank you. Force of habit. Nobody said God bless you, but thank you anyway. Okay, so here we go. I've got this purple dot here. okay? Now, if I want to get rid of it, you might think, oh, I need to lower my opacity, okay? But in doing so, we've now cut out all the outer glow, okay? So that's no good. So what can we do? Well, we can use fill, okay? So if I lower my fill, watch what happens to that outer glow. Oh my goodness, it's staying put, okay? So really nice, neat feature is your difference between your fill and your opacity, okay? So understanding that difference there, pretty fundamental to using layer styles, right? We can have whatever we want on an image, whether it's, a reference color like this purple one is, so that we can see exactly where, our shape is, or if it's going to color match. Like, so for example, well, no, we can't do that. Can I do this? Yes, I can. If we fill this to something that matches the color, that's great. But we can also just do a reference color to get our shapes right. Okay, so that's outer glow. That's also the difference essentially between fill and opacity. Okay. Now we're also going to work on this image, which is in the files section under on Canvas. So if you go to files and then you go down to this folder here, you will see all of those images and also this .abr file, which is what's called an Adobe Brush file. So if you click on that, you can download it. And just kind of a word of caution, you only need to open ABR files one time, so double click on them once and they will load themselves into Photoshop. If you power click it 53 times, you're going to get 53 different of the same brush. So just double click it once and that's what you want to do. Okay, so once we've got this image, the one that's just called fairies.jpg, once you import that into Photoshop, let's give ourselves a blank layer, which remember is Option Command Shift N, or you can just click the plus sign down there, and then we should be good to go. Okay. So what we're going to do with this image is give it some kind of fairy lights effect, right? It's kind of this nice, wooded lady image type thing. So, whatever. Okay. All right. So to get our particular brush that we just have loaded in, you're going to go up to, well, first you're going to select your brush. You can go up to where this is where your pixel representation is there, or you can right click on the canvas and that will also bring up your brush profiles. Scroll all the way to the bottom. If you have a bunch of these open, that's great, but all the way at the bottom you will find it there. Now just to zoom in a whole bunch so we can maybe see it, it's a very, very subtle brush, and that's essentially what we're trying to do, is a very, very subtle edit. So we've got all these little dots, and what they're going to do is they're going to actually scatter as you paint them. So let's go ahead and paint with white. So hit D and then X. And then we're going to go ahead and paint with white. Okay. So let me fill this with black, and then I will paint with white just so we can get an idea as to what this brush will do for us. Okay. So here we are at 1,000 pixels. Okay. And I'm just going to stay put, but keep clicking. Okay. So my pointer, my cursor, whatever, is staying in the same place, and you can see how it's kind of randomly scattering the dots. Okay, it's a great brush. It's got a really fun profile in that as it paints, it rotates and scatters itself. Okay, so no two brush strokes will ever really be the same. Okay, it's got some big, some small, and then what we're also going to do is resize our brush, go a little bit larger sometime, go a little bit smaller sometime.
Students, pardon the interruption.
Excuse the interruption.
We are ready for the last name of alphabet A through F for the vaccination clinic. Please come down now. Last name starting A through F.
So if you're A through F, please go down to the main office to get vaccinated. Hooray, great. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Okay, so that's effectively what our brush is going to look like. But remember, we want to paint on a blank layer because we want to give it a layer style. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to start with kind of a smaller brush, maybe like 500, 800 pixels. It's going to be very small, and I'm going to do that to get like sort of around the flowers here. Okay, and just like, you know, really a couple of brush strokes is all you need, maybe even less. Okay. All right, then I'm going to bump up to, you know, like 1200 and do kind of my larger would-be fairies. And then I'm going to go pretty much all the way maxed out and do a couple of considerably larger ones. Oop, what? Well, where'd it go? Goodness. There we go. Okay, so we don't want too much, right? I don't think fairies really come out in mass too often, but maybe they do. Never actually seen them. Okay, and we'll do a couple more. Okay, all right, so now what I've got is, let's do this. Oh, no, not that. This, there we go. And we'll do this. Okay, and so now you can see what mine looks like there, okay? And I've just overlaid it on a black layer there just so we can see what it looks like roughly, okay? So, delete that. Okay, so now we've got this. Now we're gonna do essentially the same thing. We're gonna give this an outer glow. So I'm gonna click the box, but again, remember, we need to also select that so that we can get to our settings, okay? Now, right now, they're not really matching the color on the screen, right? They're still this yellowy color. If I wanted to match the color, I could just find a color that I like. I would say definitely go with one of the brighter colors on the screen. You know, something like that. Okay, now there's this neat feature that we can use. If you click the gradient here, you can also add a gradient color instead. So if we went like iridescent, right? Tried to find like it's kind of the greens and purples that are in this image, maybe, I don't know, maybe like this. Then we get kind of a sort of the bad trip look here that this already has there. So now we've got these lovely effects here. Now these are essentially the same from my first image, which might not always be the case, but it's going to work for me right here. The other thing I would recommend doing is going to a color dodge here, because it's going to give them a little bit more to do with the actual colors on the screen. It's going to dodge those colors a little bit. Maybe lower opacity a chunk. I don't know. I hate to say it, but like, well, I hate to admit it, but you know, I don't necessarily know how to describe these, but you know, you kind of get the idea of what they do as you use them. So I would say just play around, man. Just play around. There's no harm in it. You can always sort of undo or redo what you need done. So nothing really final on these. So lots of fun. Okay, cool. Then we're just gonna click OK. And here's the neat thing. This, again, if we wanted to lower our fill to 0, we could, right? Doesn't really help us in this case. We just get sort of the hint of those things there, okay? But what also we can do is if we just went back to our regular soft round brush, not that big, okay? We can also, you know, maybe add in a couple elements, right? And it's going to keep it there. Or, you know, we can do that kind of thing to it, okay? So long as it is on a blank layer and the layer style is there, we should get that same effect. So lots of fun. Practice on this image, and then I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and I'll see you in the next one.